All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Trey Finley. I'm Executive Director of 1128 Ministries. Thanks so much for watching this video. As I mentioned yesterday in the video that I posted, we are going to be spending some time with some of the good folks who are investing in themselves and the care of their souls. And one particular group that's doing that in 2019 is a group of faith leaders up in the Northeast, in Connecticut, in New York. They are folks who are investing in themselves. Massachusetts too. Almost forgot. Sorry, Candace. Massachusetts too. Who are investing in themselves and in the growth and care of their souls this year. And I have with me today my friend Max Chance. Max and I go way, way back and getting further and further back at ACU. Friends there in the Bible department, and enjoyed getting to know him then. And through 1128, our paths have crossed again. So Max, welcome. Man, I'm glad that our paths have crossed. Tell us more about Max Chance.
I love it, Trey. Thank you. Great to be here. And of course, I remember you from the days of yore. We won't say when those days were. And I loved Risa back in the day also. We were all in school together, and that was good times. So when I had the opportunity to do this, I was thrilled. So I preach for a little church of Christ in Mattituck, New York. That's on the east end of Long Island. If you're familiar with the geography of Long Island, it forks on the east end. So we're on the northern fork. The southern fork is home to the Hamptons, quite famously or notoriously, depending on how you look at that. But we're on the northern fork, which is much more kind of rural, and there's like 70 some odd vineyards on the northern fork. So, it's much more of a small town vibe up here, which is great for us lifelong Texans. And so I preach for a little Church of Christ here, and I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist in New York State. So I see clients, and actually I serve 8 different congregations at one point last year, in kind of being the only one who's faith-based in doing that therapy work. So have good relationships with a number of different pastors and priests around the area, and they send me folks that they feel like are knotted up in a way that they'd like some support addressing. So kind of have a different makeup maybe to the job, but far-reaching ministry I'm blessed to be a part of.
Cool. Well, I got one other question for you. It's a little bit less of an upbeat question, but it's something that the folks who saw the video yesterday and who've been on our website recently know that we're talking a little bit about. And you hinted at that a little bit, that, renewal is needed. You kind of start paying attention, you realize, I'm a little more weary than I realized I was. Yeah. And it's a very tragic and I suppose somewhat extreme story, but, we told the story, if you missed the video, of a minister, a church leader who committed suicide. Awful story, and very, very tragic, of course, for many reasons. But the thing that struck us is that in the aftermath of posting that, Max, we had 17 people in ministry reach out to us in the next 36 hours and say, me too.
Yikes.
I've considered that. I've been depressed enough that those kind of thoughts have entered my mind. Yeah. 17. Wow. So I'm asking you both as an LMFT as well as someone who's working in churches. Tell me about some of the things that you've seen personally or in the lives of people you've worked with that give you kind of this, okay, we need to be paying attention to the state of this person's psyche as well as their soul. What are some of the markers we need to be paying attention to that'll help us realize that more quickly?
Well, there are a lot of things that are tells, one of them being isolation. That's one of the things I'm concerned about the most. And kind of where the crossroads of what we're talking about, just by natural geography, it's a very long island. I'm several miles from my best buddies in this stuff. And so it's easy for us each to isolate and the others not to really know it or catch it. And I do think isolation is a big, big deal. I think for me, spiritual warfare is very real, and something that in the fellowship that I grew up in, we didn't spend a lot of time focusing on, and often maybe thought to some extent had ended in quite the ways that I think it's still very much alive and real process. So what are the tells? I think isolation, I think fatigue, but I think in a strange way with ministers and even with churches, it's easy to get into the pat Q&A transaction of how you doing? Fine. And especially when you're in ministry, brave face. There are no alternatives. You know, you need to put your best foot forward. You always be upbeat, always be there for everybody else. But again, who ministers to the minister is a very legit question. And I'm so thankful, Trey, that those 17 people had you to reach out to, had some place to go with that cry for help. And because that is more than anything, the thing that concerns me and the thing that as a therapist concerns me about the true lethality of someone taking their own life is that it's the ones you don't know. It's the ones who don't cry for help. The ones who, you know, don't make a no harm agreement, don't make those kind of, you have no conversation. And then abruptly one day, bam, there you are. And so I think, you know, if you know a minister, or if you are a minister who is tempted to kind of isolate or to kind of keep things to yourself, don't do that. Please hear my voice. Don't isolate. If you're inclined to just sort of pull the covers over your head and let the world keep busying about itself today, find somebody to reach out to. And I'm really, really glad that 1128 is there. And I do think that it is a ministry of the Lord and of the Spirit right now to equip people like yourselves to address that very question and to be there to stand in the gap. These things are very, very real, and none of us is superhuman. None of us is the Christ, and none of us can purport to be. All of us, and I mean me too, have to have the support of the good Lord and of our fellowship. We have to have people that we're in real relationship with, real honest communication with, that we can share these things with. Because when I talk about spiritual warfare, you know, we know it's long been the plan of the enemy to divide and conquer, that where he can isolate someone, he will overpower us. He will overpower me if I'm alone. And so I have to see to it that I'm in fellowship. And again, it's one of the great things that came out of this, even if I didn't have great hope in the rest of the curriculum that we're going to be doing in the cohort, which I do, I have these great new relationships. And they're only going to potentially grow over the next few months. That's certainly my hope and prayer, and my you know, committed dedication to it. And so, you know, it's a passionate topic for me. I could probably go on for an hour, but just don't keep it to yourself. Whoever might be listening and struggling with those issues, I'm so glad those folks reached out, and hopefully those others who are thinking about keeping it to themselves will reach out for help also.
Yeah, absolutely. Max, thank you so much for your time, my friend. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless you guys and all you're doing, 1128. Love you.
All right.